Alright, in this lesson we'll start detailing the house piece by piece. Before diving into the tiny details, let's start with the bigger elements that would still be considered details, okay? So this is what we have so far. Let's take a look at the reference image. Should we focus on the major details or the significant additions first before tackling the smaller intricacies? Certainly it's the staircase and these pieces located in the corner, alright? So let's begin with the staircase. Navigate to the Create menu, then Polygon Primitives. We'll proceed to create a cube. We're going to proceed with the exact same steps we've already been taking. We're going to move its pivot point at cube's base, and then attach it to the grid, the cube specifically to the floor. From the side view, we'll verify it's correctly placed. So we're going to set the width for our staircase right here. Obviously, when checking the reference image, it's clear that it extends a bit more than just the width of the door. Let's give it some length too. And we're going to begin positioning it. We have 3 steps, practically speaking, or 4 if you include the house's base. So that's 3 steps on our staircase, plus the very last one. Okay, so let's dive into this. We're going to switch to vertex mode, and these particular vertices must be attached to the one located below. We'll activate vertex snapping now and move it close to what we want to attach it to. It's generally best if the objects don't penetrate each other or inter. I'm not exactly sure how to put it. They shouldn't pass through to the other side of another object. They shouldn't intersect with one another. I'm not sure if that's the precise word, but in any case, it's actually not ideal for one object to be penetrating through another. It's always preferable that it should be very close but not penetrating, because that's exactly how it works in the real world. So we have to make sure that, okay, it's not penetrating, but it is very close. And that's it. The only thing left to do is to start dividing. What will be our staircase? We can decide that one step will be here, another here, and finally another one. One here, which would be the third even. No longer needed. And we'll go to face mode. We extrude this one upwards. We must determine the proper height for the steps, according, of course, to our reference. I'm going to duplicate it. We must consider how tall each individual step will be in relation to our specific reference. This particular aspect is extremely important. I'm actually going to add a floor, because since the grid here only covers this, it only encompasses the central quadrant. I'm not sure where exactly the floor stops. So we're going to create a plane to serve as a floor reference, and we'll scale it down just to keep it there as a guide. So let's move our character downwards. Right there seems perfect to me. So based on our reference, we set it up to precisely determine how tall the steps should be. I believe that this spot is absolutely perfect. You can even reduce the height. If you find the steps are excessively tall, you have the option to slightly lower this particular edge, alright? And lastly, we'll create the very last step now. This piece should clearly serve as an intermediate component, positioned between the floor and the main structure. Between the second step and the porch, alright? And remember, to ensure there isn't any penetration or intersection, we can simply move this particular edge downward and forward. And we can do the same with all the other edges and then start moving them around. There we go. Well, it seems to me that on this particular side we could potentially start working on something, or perhaps make some adjustments. A bit with this vertex, just simply push it out a tiny bit further. There. We need to check that the house is looking good. Remember, it's important to create irregularities. We don't always want everything perfectly straight. I'm going to proceed and move this particular reference here. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. We can go ahead and delete it now so it won't be in the way. Got the stairs. What else? We need to keep looking at it from various perspectives. I also believe we can make the staircase a little bit longer. This section here is very short. These small steps, it's the only point of reference that has stairs. And it's quite short, so that's something we'll need to consider. Personally, I believe it's perfectly adequate. I think the very first step is just too short, so let's try to extend it just a little bit, something similar to this effect. And I really like how the first two steps are a bit slanted, while the last one stands more elevated and upright. That gives the staircase a good sense of style. It adds that specific irregularity it calls for, you know? So what should we do next? One thing I don't like is that this part is rounded, so this edge needs a bit more pushing out. A little bit more, perhaps right in the middle part. I'd like to push this part in. So it comes to a point, forming a kind of N, exactly how I'm holding the camera, an N shape. I would prefer it to be more, not counting the base, to push it in a bit more. At times, selecting edges might be more useful than vertices. It simply depends on your specific objective, so please take that into consideration. It would look something like this. I think that irregularity, or that shape looks much more interesting. And here we can also push it in slightly. And precisely the same applies here. You could even nudge it back just a tad so it doesn't appear entirely even, the same on one side as it is on the other. So take the time to to add that kind of irregularities. Obviously, the more time you invest in your model, the better it will eventually look. I think it's perfect up to this point, okay? It's looking good. It has a good aesthetic. Let's proceed by incorporating the corner pieces, these structural supports located beneath them. For example, this house has them. It's like it has a more powerful foundation at the corners. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We can achieve that, obviously, by using a cube. If you notice, these are always very simple shapes. Given that this will involve a lot of repetition, let's prepare a cube with its pivot point already set up at the base, and from that we will duplicate the rest to avoid repeating the same action. So, using this one, I'm going to move it over here so it's not in the way, and from this one, I'll duplicate and move it to this corner. So this one should just stick out a bit more, and we need to give it the right height. And now in vertex mode, we can start to attach it right. Oops, right here. We can now begin to give it a slightly more interesting shape by introducing these vertices. Incorporate this section. This functions as a foundational support for the house's base. Therefore, it's essential to keep in mind that we must broaden its dimensions and do the same thing. Here. Let's give it that same slam. Same thing here. Let's see how it looks. Okay, it's a type of support structure. And we'll simply duplicate it by pressing Ctrl+D, then move it to the other side. We reset the transformation so that we can quickly invert it along the x-axis. From a scale of 1, we set it to -1 and then we just adjust. Even without any adjustments, I think it already looks good. So we now have those two supports in the corners. I even believe we can exaggerate it just a little bit more. We could push these specific vertices outward a little bit more, you know? Perfect. We're going to do the same with this one. Remember to press F8 twice. It's equivalent to returning to object mode. So, so far so good. Even here I'd like to make some adjustments to the overall look. Remember to press the number 4 so that you can see exactly what you are selecting. Pull it out a little here as well. And make sure that it goes looking good. So we would have our staircase. I'm going to base it mainly on the house. This, let's remember, is the house we used in our short film Heroes, which we made last year at Rave 3D for Ecofilm. So that's why I have this reference, because it was the house we made. So we have the supports, we have the staircase, of course. Next are the railings. This is what starts giving the house more shape, making it look more complete. So to avoid making this lesson too long, we're going to stop here for now. In our upcoming lesson, we'll proceed with creating the railings for the porch of our house, or for this specific type of I don't know exactly what to call it, this sort of object. Porch, yes, exactly. So I will see you in our next lesson then.